And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Scott's Weekly Sports. Sorry I did not post last week. Just didn't have the time to post last week, but I am back. Tomorrow starts the NFL Draft, one of my favorite nights of the year. We, from Nashville, Tennessee tomorrow night. Let's get into the draft right now. I'll be going over all first-round picks and where I think everybody will go in the first round. So with that, let's get started. Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock with the very first pick of the NFL Draft. And they've been saying all week that they're not going to go with this guy, but that usually means that they are. So with the first pick in the NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Kyler Murray, quarterback, Oklahoma. Kyler Murray's the current Heisman Trophy winner, and I feel like he will be very good in the NFL. He played very well at Oklahoma, so I expect to see him go high in the draft. But if he slides down a little bit, I feel like he will be starting to trade up for him. So I think he'll go number 1 overall and start off the draft the right way. Next up, John Lynch and the San Francisco 49ers are on the clock next. And I think they're going to go with Nick Bosa out of Ohio State. His brother Joey's now in the NFL playing for the Chargers. And I feel like Nick Bosa is probably the best player in the draft, in my opinion. Even though we did only see him play 3 or 4 games this year because of injury. But I feel like he's one of the best players in the draft, and I feel like he will go number 2 overall right here to the Niners. I feel like Bosa is going to do very well in the NFL, just like his brother's done. So Nick Bosa goes number 2 overall. Next up, Josh Allen. The New York Jets are on the clock, and tough pick here because they can go a couple different ways here. But I think they're going to go with Josh Allen out of the University of Kentucky. I feel like this kid led the SEC in sacks last season. One of the only reasons that Kentucky was good last year was because of their defense. And Josh Allen was the trademark player of that defense last year. So I feel like Josh Allen will go number 3 overall. Kid played really well for Coach Stoops last year at Kentucky. So I feel like he will be the number 3 overall pick. Pick number 4, John Gruden and Mike Mayock and the Oakland Raiders have their first of 3 first-round picks. And I feel like they will go with Quentin Williams, defensive tackle out of Alabama. This kid can play very well in the NFL. I've seen this kid play very well in the NFL. I saw this kid play very well at Alabama. I kind of wish he would slide down 1 extra pick so the Bucs can grab him and maybe trade Gerald McCoy, but, that's okay. Quentin Williams goes number 4 overall, and I feel like this kid will have a very nice career in the NFL. Next up, pick number 5, Bruce Arians is on the clock in Tampa Bay. He needs to nail this draft if we want to get back to where we were a couple of years back, and now it's in playoff contention. Jason Licht sent this team like 10 years back, so we are behind the 8 ball, absolutely. So with the 5th pick in the NFL draft, we go best available defensive player. And for me, that is Devin White out of the University of LSU. He did not play in the bowl game against UCF. Smart choice there. Because he didn't want to move down his draft stock with an injury or anything like that. So this kid is probably the best linebacker on the board. So Devin White out of the University of LSU will be the pick at number 5. Next up, number 6, the New York Giants had their first of 2 first-round picks. Everyone's saying they're going to go quarterback here, but I don't think so. I feel like they're going to wait until their 2nd first-round pick to draft a quarterback. So they'll go best available here. And for me, that will be Ed Oliver out of the University of Houston. This kid's been climbing up draft boards the last couple of weeks. He's got a little bit of a temper problem, a little bit, but we saw at Houston, this kid can absolutely work, and I feel like he will do very well for Coach for the Giants. And I feel like Giants fans will be happy with that pick at pick number 6. Next up, pick number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. No more Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. Now it's Nick Foles at the helm of the Jaguars. And I saw Nick Foles work best from the middle of the field last year on offense. So I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this is a reach. But I'm going to take T.J. Hockenson out of Iowa, the tight end. This kid can play. I've seen this kid play at Iowa. He did very well. The first of 2 Iowa tight ends in the draft. So I feel like he is the better of the 2. So I'll take T.J. Hockenson at number 7 to give Nick Foles a target to throw to in Jacksonville. Next up, pick number 8, the Detroit Lions are on the clock. Matt Patricia in his 2nd year at the helm of the Lions. And I think they would love to see Devin White slide down to them, but he goes at number 5, so they're going to go with the best defensive player available. And after how good this kid looked at the Combine back in February, I'm going to go with Montez Sweat out of the University of Mississippi State. This kid blew up the Combine. back in March. So I feel like this kid is going to come in and dominate in the NFL and put some pressure on those quarterbacks in the NFC North with Trubisky, Aaron Rodgers, and Matthew Stafford, and whoever the Vikings started quarterback. So I'm going to go with Montez Sweat out of the University of Mississippi State. This kid can absolutely play, so I'm going to take him at number 8. Now, number 9, the Buffalo Bills are on the clock, and they need to protect their quarterback of the future, and Josh Allen. And this was a tough pick. I could have either gone with Jawan Taylor or Jonah Williams. And I feel like Jawan Taylor is the best player here out of the University of Florida. This kid can absolutely play. I feel like I trust the Florida kid to come out and play very well for the Bills next year. Protect Josh Allen and put some pressure on the quarterback. Take the pressure off of Josh Allen and maybe get a run game going in Buffalo with LaShawn McCoy and those guys. So Jawan Taylor, number 9 overall. Next up, number 10, the Denver Broncos. John Elway needs a quarterback, and I feel like there's one waiting for him right there at number 10. With the 10th pick, the Denver Broncos select Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Ohio State. This kid's the best available quarterback on the board for me, and I feel like this kid's going to slide a little bit. Everyone's saying he should go number 6 to the Giants, but I think the Giants are going to wait on their quarterback to pick number 17, so they're going to so he falls right into the Broncos' lots, and I think they take him at number 10. So Dwayne Haskins goes number 10 overall to the Denver Broncos. Next up, the number 11 pick in the NFL draft. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and I feel like they're going to go with Noah Fant, tight end out of the University of Iowa. A lot of people are like, why are you drafting a tight end here when you already have Tyler Eifert over there on one side of the tight end? But some teams like working with 2 tight ends, so I feel like that'll be what Cincinnati's going to do this year, especially with A.J. Green. Really good receiver, but you need another slot receiver. You need another big target for Andy Dalton to throw to, so I'm going to take Noah Fant out of the University of Iowa. He's the best player available. And tight end was the number 1 need on their draft board this year, so I feel like that's exactly where they're going to go. So Noah Fant, come on down. You are the next pick of the NFL draft, and you go to Cincinnati at number 11. Next up, number 12, the Green Bay Packers are out on the clock. Aaron Rodgers did not have a great year last year. Got a little bit injured in week 1. Couldn't really bite off the injury from week 1 all the way through the season. But I think they're going to get the quarterback some help here and get to the quarterback. So I'm going to take number 12, Devin Bush out of the University of Michigan. Second best linebacker on the board. Some people are saying this kid's going to be the best linebacker in the draft. It could be, but I'm going to take... I think he's second best this year behind Devin White. So I'm going to take Devin Bush out of the University of Michigan, going number 12 overall to the Green Bay Packers. I feel like they need to put some pressure on the quarterback, especially with a new head coach in Green Bay. So I'll take Devin Bush at number 12. Next up, the Miami Dolphins are up at number 13. Could go quarterback, but they have Fitzpatrick, so I don't think they need one. They're taking for Tua next year. So I don't think they need a quarterback because they got Fitzpatrick. So I'm going to go with Rashawn Gary out of the University of Michigan. Back-to-back Wolverines go 12 and 13. I feel like this kid is one of the best players available. And I think that they are going to like this kid at the University of Michigan. And I think the Dolphins will definitely like this guy. Get some pressure on Tom Brady and the quarterbacks in that division. So I think that's where they go at number 13. Next up, the second of the NFC South teams are on the clock, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. New offensive coordinator this year in Dirk Cutter. I don't know if they want to go offense this year, but Dan Quinn's a defensive coach, so I feel like they're going to go with the best defensive player available, and that would be Greedy Williams out of the University of LSU. This kid is the best cornerback on the board, in my opinion. A lot of people don't think so. A lot of people think it's going to be Byron Murphy out of Washington, but I don't think so. I think Greedy Williams is the best quarterback on the board. And I feel like that's where they will go at number 14. This kid's been playing lights out at LSU. This kid, again, did not play in the bowl game against UCF, but he did play very well all season. Only had 1 bad game against Alabama. So I feel like that's where they'll go at number 14. Next up, the Washington Redskins come up at number 15. Jay Gruden is on the clock with his Redskins. Definitely need a quarterback after that horrific injury that Alex Smith had last season. So I feel like they'll take the next quarterback on the board, Drew Lock out of the University of Missouri. I think this kid is going to play very well at Washington. They got some good receivers. They got a good running back if he can stay healthy this year. So I'm going to take the quarterback out of Missouri, Drew Lock. The kingdom of Drew Lock goes to the Redskins, and I think he comes in and plays very well for the Redskins. Next up, pick number 16, the Carolina Panthers are on the clock. Don't know how many games Cam Newton's going to play this year. Christian McCaffrey is a very solid running back, but they need a receiver desperately, and I think that's exactly where they're going to go. DK Metcalf is the next pick available, and I feel like he is the best receiver on the board. This kid can play. I've seen him play in the SEC. This kid can absolutely work. SEC talent's been unbelievable this year, so DK Metcalf out of, I believe, Ole Miss. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think this kid is going to blow up this year for Carolina against a pretty bad defensive teams in the NFC South. Next up, pick number 17 overall, the New York Giants are back on the clock, and they take the fourth quarterback off the board. That'll be Daniel Jones out of Duke. This kid played very well. 6 touchdowns in the bowl game for him against Temple in the bowl game. So that's enough to put him in the first round. So I'm going to take Daniel Jones at pick number 17. The Giants get their predecessor to Eli Manning, and I feel like they'll start him probably in week 5 or 6 of next season because they want to show Eli that they still trust him and they still want to start him at quarterback before they sit him on the bench come the middle of the season. Next up, pick number 18 overall. That would be the Minnesota Vikings on the clock. And they got a young offensive line that's pretty good, but they need a little bit more help. The next Alabama prospect comes off the board here at number 18, and that would be Jonah Williams, offensive tackle. This kid can play. I believe he's a guard, so that will definitely help the offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings. This kid can absolutely go to work. He played for Nick Saban, so you know this kid has talent if Nick Saban chose him to play for him. So Jonah Williams goes number 18 overall, and I feel like this kid will play very well. I could actually see him going higher in the draft, but I'm just going to go with him at number 18. But I wouldn't be shocked to see any of my players here go higher up in the draft. Next up, number 19 overall, that would be the Tennessee Titans. Marcus Mariota is a very nice quarterback. They're in a tough division in the AFC South, one of the most underrated divisions in the NFL. And I feel like they got to put some pressure on the top quarterbacks in that division in Andrew Luck, Nick Foles, and Deshaun Watson. So I feel like they're going to go Brian Burns out of Florida State. This kid was the only bright spot that Florida State had on the team last year. So I'm going to take Brian Burns out of Florida State. This kid can get to the quarterback, and that's exactly what the Tennessee Titans need out of him. So Brian Burns out of Florida State will be the next pick of it off the board here at number 19. Pick number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock after missing the playoffs for the first time in forever last year. And I feel like they're going to go with Byron Murphy out of the University of Washington. They need some help in that secondary, and I feel like that's exactly where they're going to go with it. Byron Murphy out of Washington goes number 20. This kid played very well in the Pac-12. Didn't get a chance to see him play a lot of games last year because all of those games came on like 10 o'clock East Coast time here in Florida. So I'm going to go with Byron Murphy out of the University of Washington to go number 20 overall. Next up, number 21, the Seattle Seahawks with a new contract for Russell Wilson coming in with 2 first-round draft picks after the trade they made yesterday, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. I think they're going to go with Jonathan Abram out of Mississippi State. This kid can absolutely go to work. Another SEC talent coming off the board here. The top safety in the draft. And I feel like that's exactly where they're going to go with this. They need to get some help in that secondary, but they also could protect Russell Wilson a little bit better, so I wouldn't be shocked to see an offensive lineman go here. But I think they're going to focus on that defense, the LOB. They're trying to get the LOB back together, and so that's why I think they're going to go with Jonathan Abram out of the University of Mississippi State. Next up, number 22 overall, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock after making the playoffs last season with a very surprisingly good young quarterback in Lamar Jackson. They need to protect this kid, even though you don't really need to with his speed. You don't really need to protect him, but I think you do, and I think they're going to, and they're going to draft Andre Dillard out of Stanford, one of the best offensive linemen still on the board, and I feel like that's exactly where they'll go here. He is a tackle, I believe, so I feel like that'll help on the right or left side of the offensive line for them. So I'm going to take Andre Dillard out of the University of Stanford to go number 22 overall. This kid can absolutely play. Again, didn't get to see him play a lot last year at Stanford because they were on so late in the game. But so late on in the day, but he looks pretty good, so I'll take him at number 22. Next up, number 23, back-to-back offensive lineman for me. Again, a young quarterback in Houston. They got to protect him. Deshaun Watson's one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe behind Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, and some of the other young top quarterbacks in the NFL. But I think Cody Ford out of Oklahoma goes next. I actually did get to see this kid play because the Oklahoma games are usually not on that late. So Cody Ford out of Oklahoma, another guard. This kid some people were saying the best offensive lineman in the draft. I don't see it. I see him as my fourth best offensive lineman in the draft. Some people have him number 3. Some people have him number 4. I do. So that is exactly where I have him going at number 23 overall and protect Deshaun Watson next season. Next up, number 24 overall. That would be the Oakland Raiders with their second of 3 first-round picks for John Gruden. This was from the, I believe this is from the Khalil Mack trade back in last offseason. Yes, because the Cowboys made it farther in the playoffs than the Bears did. So with pick number 24, Dexter Lawrence comes off the board finally. A lot of people were saying that this is a steal, and I absolutely agree. This kid played great for Dabo Swinney last year at Clemson, and I feel like this kid will play very well next season for John Gruden and company on that defensive line for the Oakland Raiders. So that'll be the Raiders' second of 3 first-round picks this year coming off the board. Next up, number 25, the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. The runners-up in the NFC East last year, and they have a young quarterback in Carson Wentz that just seems to get hurt every single season. So they need to protect this kid desperately, and I think they're going to go Garrett Bradbury, the center, out of, can't remember what school he's coming out of, but he's a very good player. Coming out of, I believe he's coming out of the SEC, Texas A&M, I believe. He's a center, so that'll definitely help him out. And I know they might still have Jason Kelce or something like that at center, but that'll be okay because you can put one of those centers over at the right guard position for the Eagles. And I feel like you never have too much offensive linemen when you have a young, stout quarterback in Carson Wentz, and you want to win that division. You got to go offensive line. So Garrett Bradbury is the next pick coming off the board. Next up, pick number 26 overall will be the Indianapolis Colts on the clock. And they will go with Christian Wilkins out of the University of Clemson. This kid can play. I've seen this kid play. Clemson looked very good the entire year. So that'll be pick number 26, Christian Wilkins out of the University of Clemson. Another one of Dabo Swinney's best players in the draft. So I'll go with him at pick number 26. Pick number 27 on the clock. The Oakland Raiders are back on the clock again. The third of 3 first-round picks. They got this one in the Amari Cooper trade that they made in the middle of the season last year. And I think Rocky Wilson out of the University of Temple will be the next pick here. Again, not a lot of love for the American Athletic Conference this year, but this kid played very well at Temple. And I feel like he'll be happy to get out of the cold weather of Temple and get into the very nice weather in Oakland over there in California. So I'll take him at number 27. Pick number 28, the Los Angeles Chargers. Keep on wanting to call them the San Diego Chargers, but I'll get it some year. The LA Chargers are on the clock after a playoff run last year. They have a good quarterback in Phillip Rivers. They have a good young defense, but I feel like they got to get that secondary a little bit better. So with pick number 28, they're going to go with DeAndre Baker out of the University of Georgia. Played very well for Kirby Smart last year at Georgia, and I feel like that'll be the pick at pick number 28 for him. Played very well last year for Georgia. One of the big reasons why they did very well last year in the SEC, won the SEC last year. Should have won the SEC, but they choked away a fourth-quarter lead against Alabama last year. So I'll take DeAndre Baker at number 28. Next up, number 29, the Seattle Seahawks are on the clock, and they need a wide receiver desperately, especially after trading for Frank Clark. After trading Frank Clark yesterday to get this pick, they traded it to the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. So that'll mean the Chiefs are out of the first round. So they trade that pick to Seattle. And with pick number 29, they are going to need a receiver. They have Doug Baldwin, but they need another receiver on the other side of Doug Baldwin. And I think they're going to go with Marquise Hollywood Brown out of the University of Oklahoma. This kid can absolutely play. I've seen him play at Oklahoma. This kid looks very good, and I feel like he will be the second-best receiver on that Seattle Seahawks team this year. Tyler Lockett's good, but I feel like this kid's a little better, so I'll take him at number 29. Next up, number 30, the Green Bay Packers are back on the clock. I believe this is the New Orleans Saints pick that they got here at number 30. And I feel like they're going to go with Irv Smith out of the University of... Can't remember. He's a tight end, though. So I'm going to take him at number 30. They need a tight end. With the aging Jimmy Graham over there in Green Bay, they need a younger tight end to move around for the future. So I feel like Irv Smith will be number 30 overall to the Packers. Next up, number 31, the LA Rams, the NFC champions this year. I think they're going to go with Clelin Ferrell out of the University of Clemson. A lot of people are saying the best player available on the board, and that's exactly why they're going to take him here. He was the best player on defense for Dabo Swinney last year, in some people's opinion. That was not me. I think Christian Wilkins was our best player last year on defense. So I'm going to go with Clelin Ferrell out of the University of Clemson to go number 31. Next up, the defending Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. They were sitting there at number 32.
Boo!
And Bill Belichick might trade this pick. I would love to see the Bucs try and trade back in here. Maybe trade Cameron Brate to New England to get number 32 because they need another tight end. But if we do trade Cameron Brate, that would be just fine because we have O.J. Howard sitting there as our other tight end. So I wouldn't be upset with that. But if they stay put, I feel like they're going to take the best player available. And he tore his ACL about a month ago. He said he's not going to play this season. But Bill Belichick doesn't care. He's going to take the best player available. He doesn't need him right this season because they're already too good next season. Jeffrey Simmons out of Mississippi State. This kid tore his ACL last, I believe, in February. He would have been a top 20 pick if he would not have torn his ACL. But good news for him is he goes to a great team in the New England Patriots. And I feel like that'll be the pick right there, number 32 for them. And that will do it for this episode of Scott's Week in Sports Today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back next week with, I'm not quite sure yet, but I'll be back with a video next week. Always like, subscribe, comment, and share these videos on with your friends, family, co-workers, anybody. And I will see you guys right back here next week on Scott's Week in Sports right here on YouTube. See you later, guys.
Go Bucks!